starters yesterday. In the West, Steph, Luka, Kawhi, Jokic, and LeBron. In the East, Beal, Kyrie, KD, Giannis, and Embiid. So, Antoine, who is the biggest all-star snub?
Well, it's got to be Dame Dollar. I mean, every year it seems like we're always fighting, arguing over this guy being an all-star. But he should be a starter this year. When you look at his body of work, let's first start that he's played 14, 15 games without C.J. McCullough, who's having an all-star year himself. And he's got his team 8 games over 500. We used to Portland struggling in the beginning of the season and having to come on late. And this is the guy you got to give his flowers to, averaging 30 points a game, shooting 45%, shooting 94 out from the free throw line. But also, he's in a stretch right now where the team's on a 6-game winning streak, and he's playing unbelievable basketball. Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from Steph, and Steph deserves to be an all-star. But this is expected, what Steph Curry's doing. It's no Klay Thompson. Draymond Green is not the same scorer that he was early in his career. He barely could put the ball in the basket. Kelly Oubre is not having a great season offensively. So this is expected for Steph. We knew Steph was going to have a big year. We knew he was going to average 30 points. So it's nothing new that Steph is doing. It is impressive that they're 3 games over 500 and they're like in the 7th spot. But besides that, individual play, Steph is doing what we thought he'd do. Dame Dollar should not have been a snub. He should have been a starter. We got to start giving him his flowers for the work he's doing right now.
I'm with you, Twine, but I don't think Steph is the guy that shouldn't have been on the starting team. It should be Luka. And I'm going to apologize right here to Dame Dollar. I'm one of the official media voters, and I voted as the West starters win. So I had Steph, Luka, and then the front line. I should have had Dame on there instead of Luka. It's close. You know, it's no embarrassment in Luka being a starter, but I should have went with Dame. It wouldn't have affected the voting. He still wouldn't have started. But I'm going to say that to him personally. I should have had him on the starting lineup. But I'm going to talk about another snub, and that's James Harden. James Harden is the best dual threat point guard in the NBA. Dual threat meaning scoring and passing. James Harden is awesome, and I know he's only played 17 games in the East. I don't care. He is an all-time great. He's showing it right now, and he has gotten to the level where, barring injury, he's an automatic starter, period. I mean, and look, Kyrie is playing great. I don't have any problem with him starting. I had him as a starter on my ballot, but I had him next to James Harden. So I had Brooklyn with 3 starters. If I had to pick one of those 2, I'm starting Harden over Kyrie. So at the very least, it could have been Harden and Beal. But let me get to Beal. Look, I like Bradley Beal. God bless him. He's having a great season. But they've won 9 games. If we're just going to go by stats, I could put Zach LaVine on there instead of Beal. In Chicago, Chicago's won more games. They're the 9th seed. And Beal overall has better numbers than Beal. He's averaging 4 fewer points, but still 28. But higher field goal percentage, higher three-point percentage, more assists, more rebounds a game than Beal. So I want to reward to some degree the guys that are helping their team win. And so Harden, come on, man. Harden is awesome. Awesome. He must be a starter in the All-Star game.
Chris, I agree. I disagree with everything you just said. We don't have enough time to get into all of it. So I'll start with Dame. So you're responsible for this, Chris. You had the power.
Right, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. He won the media vote. It still didn't matter.
Then Luka has played without Porzingis. Okay, that's fair. But the Blazers are the 4th in the West. Dame should obviously be a starter. We know that. Harden, come on. We can't disregard what happened at the beginning of the season, all the mess and the drama that went on. You have to count that. You have to consider that in the All-Star. It's not that he's not an All-Star, but he shouldn't be a starter. And Bradley Beal should obviously be a starter. We're talking about Dame deserves his flowers. Bradley Beal deserves his flowers. He should be there. He should be a starter. I actually, other than Dame, I'm okay with these lineups. But Chris, we might have to do a whole other segment on all that.
Joy, let's do it. Come on. Golly.
Yeah, I'm with you. Joy, I'm with you, man. If I could be physically in front of Chris, I might put hands on him. As a player, don't apologize to me for something you was completely in control of. Man, you're a part of the media. Make the right decision. Don't apologize afterwards. But for Dame, it is about Dame Dollar. And
I thought I was being a big
Twan,
man.
you mentioned about giving him his flowers right now, and the players recognize that. He finished second in players voting, and then in the media they cover Dame Dollar, so they know what he's all about. He finished second there. The issue is with the fans. They don't get to see Damian Lillard play night in, night out. And then he doesn't have the international impact like Luka Doncic. So he's not going to get the fan voting there. He finished third. And so when I look at Dame Dollar, you're absolutely right, Twan. You got to get a man his flowers right now, because what he's done over the past 4 years, or even longer, he's a special elite talent. Night in and night out, he's going to be out there for his team.
Lakers coach Frank Vogel about the Nets win, guys. I loved what I saw from the Nets. The Nets are now 10-1 against teams that are 500 or better. Kyrie and Harden had a little conversation. Harden's now the point guard. Kyrie is playing a role. It's all coming together. We had a lot of questions about if this was going to work or not. They're doing all this without KD. We had a lot of questions about their defense. How are they going to stop anybody? Well, you saw last night, if you don't have all your weapons, it doesn't matter if they get stops or not. And they actually had a really good defensive night, holding the Lakers to 98 points, only 8 threes. They're shooting an NBA best from three-point, 42% since Harden has been there. They have 5 players shooting better than 40% from the three. So what we learned last night is that KD doesn't need to be on the floor for Harden and Kyrie and the rest of the Nets to be dominant. Obviously, the Lakers were shorthanded. They didn't have Shooter. They didn't have Anthony Davis. But they had a great showing last night. It was a dominant performance. LeBron played amazing, and it just didn't matter. And this is a Lakers team that's still very complete. They have great chemistry. I actually expected it to be a much closer game at the end. So I was very impressed with the Nets last night. I think it's much more about what the Nets are doing and them getting into a flow and a rhythm at this point in the season.
I'm with you, Joy. This was all about the Nets. They were phenomenal. And they look like they're going to be phenomenal. A news flash for people. They're winning the East, period. They are winning the East. And I'm going to hold off right now on predicting more. But I want to watch them for a little bit. But it could be more. They could win this whole thing. They're unstoppable. And they, as Joy said, they didn't even have their best offensive player. And they were unstoppable. And I know that Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder, 2 of the Lakers' best defenders, were not on the floor. And this is a strange thing, and I don't really buy it, but technically, the numbers, the analytics actually say they're better defensively without AD and Dennis Schroeder. They are by far the #1 defensive team in the league when those 2 aren't on the floor, and they're #1 when those 2 are on the floor. So you had the best offense minus its best scorer against the best defense minus its best defender. So you can call that a wash. And Brooklyn just ran roughshod over them. They shot 61% from the field as far as effective field goal percentage. Greg, the thing with Brooklyn is they can get an open shot every single time down the court, because they've got the 2 playmakers, and when Durant's there, the 3 that draw double and triple teams. So they're always going to get an open look, and they're surrounded by snipers. Joe Harris is shooting 51% from 3. Joy mentioned that they've been the best 3-point shooting team in the league with Harden. They've got 5 guys shooting 42% or better from 3. News flash for everybody. NBA players are terrific at hitting open 3-point shots. If you ever watch them in practice, it's ridiculous. They're getting open 3s every trip down, and that's why they're tough to beat. Finally, I'll say this, Greg. The small ball lineup with Jeff Green at center is paying major dividends. They're outscoring opponents by 10 points per 100 possessions with Green at center. We saw what they did against Phoenix the other night. They did it again in the first quarter against the Lakers, because no one in the league, including Philadelphia, has someone that's going to punish you consistently for playing small ball. Even Joel Embiid plays a lot on the perimeter, so they can get away, the Nets, with playing Jeff Green at center. Marc Gasol certainly wasn't going to punish you. So this is a team to be reckoned with, Greg.
Yeah, I'm with both of you guys, and I'm just going to say this. I'm done needing to be convinced that Kyrie can play with Harden and all three of these guys can actually develop that chemistry. Because when we looked at that game last night, what we saw was exactly what we needed to see. Can those two, which are the most important pieces as far as getting chemistry and developing that and being on the court together and developing that rapport and playing side by side at the same time for a duration of the game, they got it done, and they got it done seamlessly. And they were able to get others involved, as you alluded to, Chris. And Joy, you mentioned it, shooting from the field and three-point land, they have been lights out. And what's most impressive and scary for the rest of the league is, like you said, Chris, they're doing it without Kevin Durant on the court. Now, you can say whatever you want to say about they haven't played all together. I'm done saying it because I truly believe Kevin Durant is one of those players in this league that can just be inserted at any moment, any time because of his level of efficiency. You talk about a player that can get his shot off with less volume than most stars in this league. And when you watch them up against the Lakers, they rebounded well. Joy, you mentioned their defense. It's not about how well they defend. It's Chris, you mentioned this a couple days ago. It's when they get their stops, and they were showing effort last night. They played with high energy. They passed the ball. The ball didn't really stall. But Chris, you said this to me a couple years ago about Kyrie and superstars in the postseason.